Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Project Geekology. We are your host, Anthony.
And Dakota.
Sorry for the late episode. Dakota and I have had some pretty crazy weeks, and we are excited to be recording and getting this episode out to you. This week, we are going to be talking about The Mandalorian. I'm pretty stoked about that. How about you, Dakota?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a hectic couple weeks for both of us.
If you would like to skip ahead to our discussion of The Mandalorian, jump ahead to 11 minutes and 50 seconds.
The day that we dropped the Black Panther episode, my brother got married, so I was busy helping out with that wedding. It was down in Florida, so it was near you, Anthony, and you joined in on the
Yes.
Zoom call, so it was like a Zoom meeting, so it was not something either of us were accustomed to. But it was nice. It was short and sweet. While I was down there, me and my wife, on our way back up, we decided we were going to stop in Magic Kingdom. That was fun.
Ooh, yeah, man, I saw that. That looked pretty fun. I haven't been there since before all this started.
Before COVID, yeah. We were worried, honestly. We were really worried about because obviously the past couple months, Florida hasn't been the best place to be, as I'm sure you're aware, Anthony.
Yes.
But we decided, while we're already kind of not doing the social distancing to the umpth degree, we were going to just try to have a little bit of fun while we're at it. Because when we had to go back to New York, we had to social distance for 2 weeks. So we physically can't get out of the house. I can't go back to work for 2 weeks. Jen can't go back to work for 2 weeks. So we might as well have a little bit of fun while we're down in Florida. And we went to Magic Kingdom. It was fun. We had a good time. The lines were great, honestly. I didn't spend any longer than 10 minutes in a line for anything. That was awesome. So I don't recommend going out of your way during this time to a theme park for that reason. But ironically, it was a good time. Partially, that's the Disney magic. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the Disney magic this week. But that's some of what I did this past week, Anthony. What did you do?
I've been doing a lot of movie and TV show watching. I've been catching up on some stuff. I've finally started watching Cobra Kai. That's really good. It is really good. I never got around to it because for the longest time it was a YouTube exclusive, and yeah, I wasn't gonna pay.
It was
subscription for like
it was $10 a month. Yeah, for the
$10 for another subscription. That, to be quite frank, I probably wasn't gonna use that one as much, and I already have like a few others under my belt, so I was like, nah. And so they moved it over to Netflix, which a little bit ago. It's been on Netflix for some time now. And so I finally found some time and I've been watching it. Oh, actually, I started it today, but I've watched a few episodes in and it's really good. I enjoy it. It really does feel like I'm watching a movie as I'm watching these episodes. You can tell that it's part of that Karate Kid universe. It's kind of cool to see the kind of people that Johnny and Daniel or Danny have become, which are the main protagonist, which was Danny, and the main antagonist, which was Johnny in the first film. And so it was really cool seeing that, or seeing them older. They have kids, so it's cool seeing that. I actually got to check out Mulan. I watched
really
Mulan.
The new one.
Yes, I did. The new Mulan.
How was it?
So I went into this film knowing that it wasn't a musical and that there was some key stuff missing. And I know for a lot of Disney fans that really caused an uproar because, a lot of people wanted Mushu with, Eddie Murphy in the original. And I understand the uproar in that because I do like the originals. Mulan is probably like my favorite like OG princess, just because like that film was like an action-packed film. And also the fact that some like iconic Disney songs were on that movie. So the fact that it wasn't a musical kind of drove a lot of people away. I'm not as hard to satisfy as some people when it comes to film. I did enjoy it. I thought it was a really fun film to watch. It was a wuxia film, kind of like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, running up the walls and whatnot. So that was an interesting take, and they actually corrected a few things in this film that were incorrect in the animation. The enemies that attacked in the animation were the Huns, and historically that was not correct. So in the new movie, they changed the Huns to the Rorans. And so Shan Yu in the original film was changed to... There's so many characters in this movie I do not remember.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. It's your first viewing. I totally understand that.
It was pretty cool though, because it had Donnie Yen in it, which I really, really like Donnie Yen. It also had Jet Li, who portrayed the Emperor. A lot of other actors and actresses that were probably not as well known to some, to a lot of people. So overall, I enjoyed the film. If you go into it expecting it to be a true Disney movie, you are gonna get a little upset. I did see the touches of Disney in it. There's definitely that Disney touch to it.
Okay.
I know critically it made a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes, which isn't all that bad. It didn't do so well on the viewer side, which scored about a 51%.
Really?
But I will say that after seeing it, I did enjoy it as an action film, as a wuxia film, but a lot different than the animation.
And that's fine. I don't think that every live action remake should be a one-to-one copy of the animated film that it's based off of. I like some of the creative liberties that they've taken with other animated or live action films based on animated stuff. Like in Beauty and the Beast, they added, I think, 2 new songs to that, and it's my favorite of the live action remakes. I think they did a really, really good job. There's one particular song in that, Evermore, that just nails it for me. And it just it makes the Beast a better character. So even though they removed the songs from Mulan, and I haven't seen the film, so I can't really say, I don't think that's going to be a make it or break it thing for me. So long as the actual story remains, true to the actual legend of Fa Mulan, the actual Chinese legend, I think that's a cool thing that they're trying to do at the very least. Whether they succeed or not is, it's not for me to say. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, no, definitely see it. I think the original animated movie could have been just an action movie. It could have easily not been a musical and I still would have watched it.
I don't know. Let's Get Down to Business is the best. When I think of that movie, I instantly, that little march, let's get down to business. It gets stuck in my head.
If it had never been released,
I understand. Yeah.
We didn't know the songs, then I would have still watched it. But yeah, no, I totally get where you're coming from. Yeah, it's Make a Man Out of You or Man Out of You. That's probably the best song in that film.
Right.
It's just
it's so catchy. It's so memorable. But that's
everyone's.
That's cool that you saw it though. I'm happy that one of us got to see it. I was heavily debating it. When it first dropped, I was like, maybe I can make a YouTube video out of this. Is it worth spending $30 to see Mulan?
Right. Well, so the Disney Plus account, I don't actually own. My parents have it. We all pretty much use it. My entire family, we all have our own accounts. And so we use it. They made the decision to purchase it. And it was pretty cool because since they purchased it, every profile has access to it because it's connected to the same account. So I didn't have to go to their profile to go watch it. I could just watch it straight on my own profile.
Oh, cool. That's interesting.
So yeah, no, it was good. It was definitely, I think it's worth the watch. Just go in with an open mind and check it out. Is it $30? I mean, that for me, that's debatable. I watched it because my parents made that decision. But I do understand why they did it, because they were thinking more along the lines of a family seeing it.
Yes.
So they would have spent more than $30.
They would have spent more than $30 on theaters.
Right.
Yeah, I had this conversation with my dad, and he was very much no, it's not worth $30 to see a movie. But you can also look at it, if 2 people are going to the theaters, the average amount that you're going to spend at a theater is between $13 to $16 per ticket. So You're going to spend around $30 anyway, not including any food that you might buy at the theater. So if it's just 2 people, technically you're getting your money's worth. Although it's not the theater experience, you also have to balance out what Disney's losses are on the film, because they spent like $200 million making the movie. So the idea that they might not get that much back just by putting it free on demand, it makes sense. I understand where they're coming from. Every other movie on their platform has had the opportunity to go to the theaters and then be put on streaming. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Mulan hasn't had that
They also
opportunity.
did marketing. They lost money on that too.
That's a good point. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think $30 is probably, when it's all balanced out and said and done, I think $30 is feasible for a family to spend.
Yeah, exactly. It depends on who it is. If it's a family, then yeah. If it's maybe just you, I mean, if you want to drop the $30, more power to you. They're gonna bring it to Disney Plus, I think, in the winter time,
December 6th or something like that. Yeah, I'll just wait till
right.
Yeah, it's
right.
not a huge
So
loss
yeah,
on my
if you exactly.
maybe
So,
come
yeah, no,
December,
definitely.
you and I can have a little podcast on Mulan or something. We could compare and contrast the animated film.
Yes.
Yeah, hold
I
us
would
to
actually
that.
enjoy that.
Listeners, hold us to that. Sometime
that
in
would be
December,
good.
you, Anthony and I, we need to watch the animated film and the live action film. We got to compare and contrast, see which one's actually better and worth your while. All right.
Yes, I'll watch both. I'll definitely watch both again. So
I don't think
that'll be enough time.
I don't think I've seen Mulan, the animated classic, since it was in theaters. It's been a long
gosh.
time, dude.
That's a long time ago. No, I haven't waited that long.
But
I think
I remember
I'd
all
seen
those
it
songs. I
recently.
remember the songs very vividly. All right, so let's actually get into the meat and bones of what we're discussing today. The Mandalorian, Season 1. It was the biggest show, honestly, like the entirety of last year, 2019. I remember every single episode, there were new memes coming out about Baby Yoda or the child. There were like new little like supercuts that were coming out about like the Mandalorian and this little like Yoda baby. It was the best time to be a fan of anything right before a huge global pandemic hit us.
Yes.
It was great. It was honestly, it was a great time, and it's fun now going back to the first season, having rewatched the trailer for season 2, which we're going to talk a little bit about in just a bit. But it was fun watching that and then rewatching season 1 to get a bearing as to what we can expect from season 2 going forward. And I think I have some new theories as to like what to expect from the next season, because there's some characters who are still alive, there's some characters who like were left open-ended, and some characters that were in the trailer for season 2 that obviously are going to be in season 2. So we're going to have to talk a little bit about all that little minutia. Are you on the same page with me, Anthony? Do you think we need to like hide behind a spoiler tag, or should we just talk about all that we need to talk about?
I mean, here at Project Geekology, I'm just gonna go and say that the whole Baby Yoda debate. I know it's not Yoda. There's a huge amount of people out there that know it's not Yoda. I still call it Baby Yoda because for me it's an identifier. It's a lot easier for me to say Baby Yoda than infant of the same species as Yoda. I'm not gonna say that. It's a mouthful. It takes too much time. So if I offend you for saying Baby Yoda, I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna be spitting out that tongue twister every time I talk about quote unquote Baby Yoda.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, like, do you think we should talk about like non-spoilers first, or should we just dive into spoilers? Do you think most of our audience has seen? I assume most of our audience, having if you're watching this episode, and you love Star Wars, and you've probably already seen the first season of Mandalorian. I think it's safe to say that we can talk. We can just jump into spoilers without having to worry about anything, right?
Right. I would say that if you haven't seen it yet, then maybe stop this episode and watch it if you don't want to be spoiled. But yeah, we're definitely going to be talking about the first season. We're coming up on season 2, so I think it's fair game to speak spoilers.
And honestly, if you're a dedicated Star Wars fan, if you like the IP, you will honestly just sit through the 8 episodes that exist already and enjoy it, because you can watch it in a single sitting. I think it lasts like 4 hours in total or something like that. I know I watched, or we both rewatched The Mandalorian season 1, and then we watched the docuseries that Disney Plus put out, and that was awesome. You know, getting the background, behind the scenes stuff. So, I mean, we might talk a little bit about the behind the scenes here on the show, but we're ultimately going to be talking about the finished product at the end of the day. So yeah, give it a view, give it a watch if you haven't already seen it. But we're excited to talk about it. So Anthony,
definitely.
What was your original opinion after seeing the entirety of The Mandalorian? Or even the first episode, whatever.
Oh, the first episode? I was hooked. I was hooked after that first episode because I knew that they spared no expense on this series. Because for me, it didn't feel like I was watching a TV show.
No.
It looked like I was watching a Star Wars film. The thing I liked so much about it was that it felt so much like Star Wars, but it's something that you can watch without really knowing much about the main universe.
Absolutely. And like you were saying, they definitely went all in. They wanted their first flagship show of Disney Plus to be, you know, something you can remember, something you will remember. It's not something that looks like it was done in a studio set. It looks like something that's very unique. It almost looks like, and, you know, many of us for the first half of the season thought that most of the show was filmed outdoors on location. But I remember being in that group of people who were like looking like, where the heck did they shoot this? Because there was no like on location shooting that was, you know, outside of like the usual spots where they shoot, like Pinewood Studios in London and stuff. There was no outdoor shooting that like seemed to exist. And then we found out that they had this new technology where it looks like you're shooting outside. It looks like you're shooting on location, but it's really one huge LED like round set. That
dude, it was.
If you don't know what I'm talking
about,
if you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to. You don't have to watch the entire docuseries, but I think it's like episode 4 or 5. They talk about the technology behind how they shot this. So they have this absolutely fresh technology. This is the first project that's ever used it. It's called the Volume. It was called the Volume.
Oh, the Volume. Yeah, right.
So they have this new technology called the Volume, and it's almost like a whole 360 degree LED soundstage where they have an in-game engine that projects, you know, interactive character movement or camera movement views of every single scenario that's already pre-digitally done, so that they don't have to do a lot of stuff in post, honestly. It's just kind of like stitching and making sure everything looks nice. They were able to do something so unique with this film. It was always a dream of mine to like become a filmmaker, but it has never been so blatantly obvious that I've chosen the wrong path in life than like right now, because I want to be behind that set. I want to be like looking at them make this series, because it is a beautiful thing. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend watching the docuseries. I think it's episode 4. They call it Technology. And man, they've literally created a new technology that will help filmmakers for years, maybe decades to come.
Yeah. So the thing that I really liked about the Volume also was the fact that they had stage props that would be only like little pieces of the stage prop, like the Razor Crest or even the Sandcrawler. It was just like one. For the Sandcrawler, it was like one track. They had the rest of it up on the screen in the Volume, and it's crazy because the finished product looks so real.
It's crazy.
And even all the lighting looked natural. The fact that they were able to acquire it with this was amazing. They used some green screen for sure, but I know that they heavily relied a lot more on that so that it looked a lot more natural, and that they didn't have to do so much post-production as far as certain things such as like reflections and lighting and just a whole other bunch of things that just helped speed up the process. Now I can see how they're able to get a little bit more done quicker, because I know that I know that editing stuff with green screen, just some minor details, and with just thinking of the pain it would be for doing complete green screen with the quality of the first season, it sounds like such a pain.
I've worked with green screen as well, and it is a pain in the butt if you do not have the right lighting, which obviously you're on a film studio. They have the right lighting for green screen, and they have the great green screen for what they're doing. But this is a level above that. They already have the lighting, that you need to make it look like you're at the location you're at. They already have the lighting so that the reflections look natural. And you touched on that a little bit, but it's just such a, it's like thinking ahead of what you already have to do later on, so that you don't have to do that. And it's just the next level of filmmaking. It's crazy that it's being done on a TV show to begin with, it seems like something that they would develop for a movie and then bleed into maybe season 2 of Mandalorian can use this or whatever. No, this is fresh for Mandalorian, and that's so cool. It's so cool what they've been capable of doing, and because of that, the world feels so real. The universe, the galaxy far, far away feels so real because of it. It makes the world feel like you're living and breathing in it.
It looked a lot more realistic than a lot of the films, to be honest. I mean, there's obviously moments in the show that you can tell that it's computer generated stuff. Not saying obvious in a poor quality, but that it was a little bit harder for them to obviously capture certain things without that. But I also thought it was really cool that they used miniatures too.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
Miniatures have always been a staple for Star Wars. They did, larger miniatures in A New Hope, and eventually they realized to get, some distance with certain miniatures, they'd need to make smaller miniatures. So for Empire, they had smaller versions of the Falcon and stuff, so that they can actually get some movement on screen with these little things, because there's only so far you can go with the camera. But with Mandalorian, they've done all this, they've already had these issues ironed out in the past. And what's cool is that they had people from Lucasfilm, ILM, you name it, who've already kind of done all this stuff for the past 8, 9, 10 films that they've done in the Star Wars universe, as well as Clone Wars and Rebels, that they can bounce ideas off of and figure out the best way to do certain things. And they've nailed down such a perfect little niche in the Star Wars universe.
It was really cool that they had a lot of directors too. I think that they picked a really good group of people. I think that the showrunners, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, were fantastic picks, especially Dave Filoni. This guy's been working on Star Wars content for a long time.
I think that the directors that they chose were wide-ranging and coming from different backgrounds, and that counts for all of the cast, including the composer and the producers and everything. They all have something to bring to the table. But what I liked about what they did with Mandalorian is that they had the producers and the directors all on location, and they were overseeing everyone else's work. So it felt like it worked. It coalesced into one singular project instead of we have 5 different directors, 6 different directors that have different ideas as to what Star Wars is. It felt like it was all one project.
Yeah, they all worked together. I was surprised to see Bryce Dallas Howard on a director credit. I didn't know that she was going to be a director on the show. And it was funny because they actually talk about giving her one of the hardest episodes, the episode that took place on Sorgan. And that was really, really cool. I think that was a really cool episode, and it definitely looked like it, and it involved a lot.
Looking at all the episodes, that's probably my favorite. Just because it introduced so much more to the mythology and to the character of the Mandalorian. I think that was the biggest episode for character growth for the actual character of Din Djarin, which was the titular Mandalorian character. And it also introduced characters like Cara Dune. It introduced stuff to the lore, about the Mandalorians and not taking off their helmet for anyone. And the whole idea that over the course of a few weeks, the Mandalorian and as you say, Baby Yoda or the child or whatever. They live on this little place. They're hiding away from the bounty hunter guild, and they are able to help this little village out who has dealings with a bunch of thugs with Imperial armor and weaponry. It's such a cool little concept that can only happen in a world post the Empire. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
the Empire wouldn't allow these thugs to get their hands on like the material and the weaponry that they have. But because this is a universe that exists after the Empire has fallen, after the Empire has been defeated, in a period where the New Republic is still finding its legs and hasn't really brought like a police force down to bear on some of these, you know, like thug groups or whatever. It's interesting seeing how you know, these mobsters kind of like get hold of this technology and start like abusing it to, you know, take advantage of these lowly villagers who don't have anything to their name besides a bunch of blue shrimp, you know?
Yeah, I know.
I feel bad
that
for
was
them.
interesting.
But you're right.
Yeah.
Bryce Dallas Howard, I think that might have, if I'm wrong, let me know in like Twitter or something. But I think that was her first directing credit ever. And I think she did a fantastic job. I think it turned out to be my favorite episode of the 8 episodes that exist for a number of reasons, you know? And I part of that is like, you know, the Mandalorian lore, but I think part of it is because they introduced Cara Dune, who has a bigger part in the overarching like season, and clearly she's going to be in season 2 as well.
And, you know, speaking of that, I think that the casting was really good too. I think that Pedro Pascal has done an amazing job. If for those of you that don't know or don't remember, he portrayed Oberyn Martell in Game of Thrones. He's used to working on a show that's pretty high rated. There's also Carl Weathers. I've really enjoyed his character in that show too. You can tell that he's enjoying being on the show.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
You can tell he loves it.
I'll never not see him as Apollo Creed. Personally,
oh, yeah. Come on.
He is quintessentially Apollo Creed to me in my mind. He's unfortunately, like, I've typecast him myself into that role, but I love him so much. He brings such an energy to everything that he does. The scene where Baby Yoda touches his arm and he goes, "He's gonna eat me."
Dude, I love that part. He has some like really good parts, and that part where he tells Baby Yoda, do the magic hand thing, and then like Baby Yoda waves back at him. Dude, I love that part.
Yeah, he's like, I'm trying everything here.
No, his character is definitely something that I've enjoyed a lot, and something that was interesting in the docuseries is that they were going to kill him off early.
Yeah.
And that they wanted to put him in like prosthetics, and that they soon were thinking like, we can't do this. We can't have his name credited on the show and then not show him, because that would just cause an uproar.
Put him behind a mask and then like, you know, like put a bunch of prosthetics on him. Like why bring him into the show in general? It's Carl Weathers.
That kind of reminds me of Daniel Craig being one of the stormtroopers in was it Force Awakens?
Yes. Yeah, it was Force Awakens.
And so it wasn't until after like I looked it up, I was like, oh, that was him? Okay. So like that would have been the same, but like that would have been a little bit more, because I know that Carl Weathers is definitely a really well-known actor. I mean, Daniel Craig is too, but the Rocky films, dude.
Yeah. If you haven't checked it out, in The Last Jedi, there's a deleted scene where Tom Hardy plays a stormtrooper, and he like harasses Finn. Finn's like, you know, infiltrating the stormtrooper base or whatever, and we have Tom Hardy like with his like southern accent, you know, getting really close to Finn, like,
I know I'm not supposed to initiate contact with officers, but I never took you for captain material. Look at you, Captain.
It's so bizarre. I understand why they took it out, but it's so funny.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's a good scene. I love stuff like that. Yeah, Daniel Craig scene.
I will remove these restraints and leave the cell with the door open. And I'll drop my weapon.
I know. That was funny. That scene was pretty funny. So yeah, with the Mandalorian, let's go over the episodes a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the episodes. The first episode, it definitely dropped a huge surprise and set the tone for the rest of the series.
I actually got a little spoiler when I was at work, because people have access to the episode at midnight the previous night, and I work early. I'm an electrician, so I have to get up early. But I'm on Twitter and I'm like, why is Baby Yoda trending? Why the heck is Baby Yoda trending? What does that mean? And then I'm watching the first episode of Mandalorian after I get home, and it's fantastic, dude. It's like a western. It's a western that exists within the Star Wars world. They introduced a bunch of Mandalorian lore. We're following a bounty hunter. All of a sudden he's fighting alongside this IG unit that looks like IG-88, but he's not. He's IG-11, played by Taika Waititi of all people.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, the bounty that he's after is in this little baby carriage, this cradle, and I'm like, oh, don't tell me there's gonna be a little Baby Yoda in there. And I saw it and I was like, that's the cutest thing I've ever seen. Whoever thought of Baby Yoda is a genius. Is a genius. No, seriously, whoever thought of Baby Yoda is a genius, dude.
I'm not usually the one to fawn over infant characters in a movie or whatnot. It is what it is. But it was so hard to not think that Baby Yoda was cute. I mean, just the big ears, the big eyes. It was so hard. I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is so adorable. You could not help but think how cute it was.
So Jen and I have been playing around with the idea of coming up with a YouTube video for Geekritique all about the science of cute. It's a long discussed topic on the idea of what makes something cute. And Baby Yoda fits the entirety of the spectrum. Like you said, large glossy eyes, a face that doesn't necessarily fit its form, big ears and stuff like that. You have characters like Pikachu, which one single-handedly created the Pokemon brand. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, it's the face of Pokemon.
It's the face of Pokemon. And the idea that cute goes such a long way, and for many reasons, Baby Yoda kind of is the face of the Mandalorian, even though it wasn't intentionally the face of the Mandalorian. The show's called The Mandalorian. The fact that so many people were interested in what the heck, did they make a Baby Yoda? They decided that they were going to start watching Mandalorian, and they nailed it. The science of cute, they nailed how that was going to look in this series. And so that from the first episode, which was directed by Dave Filoni, he did a fantastic job of bringing this world to life.
Definitely
fantastic.
So I didn't realize that I wanted a Star Wars Western until I watched the show. It gives off so much Western vibes, but then they also wanted to go with kind of a samurai film too, just some subtle elements of that too. And so I thought that was really cool. Yes, that scene with the Mandalorian and IG-11 alone was so sick. It was really cool to finally see an assassin droid in action, because when I saw him shooting up all of those, I don't even know. Do you even know what they were called? The people that they were attacking?
I forget. I mean, I can look it up really quick.
Yeah, we don't know who they are, and we don't know why they were holding Baby Yoda.
Yeah, I don't see the name of the people that were camped out there.
But yeah, no, it was really cool to see that fight sequence and just how deadly assassin droids are.
It wasn't until episode 2, that was directed by Rick Famuyiwa, that we understood where the story was going. So we weren't sure if Baby Yoda was just going to be dropped off with these Imperials, and that was the end of that little character. We kind of all hoped that it wasn't, because it was just such a cute introduction to the world, and it also introduced humanity to the character of the Mandalorian, because up till the first episode, he's just been this cold-hearted, get the job done type of character. But with the second episode, where he's trying to fix his ship, because, of course, Jawas have to strip it down for parts, we don't know what's going to happen. And he ends up, just buddying up with this species that, the same species as Yoda, but, can't speak, he can walk and everything, but for the most part, he's in a baby carriage. We don't really get any glimpse as to like the baby's personality or anything until the end of the episode, when he decides to help save the Mandalorian's life as he, is trying to kill that one, I forget what. Mudhorn, yeah. Mudhorn, yeah. He's trying to kill the Mudhorn. And we all knew, we knew, like, deep down that this baby must have, like, Force abilities because he's part of Yoda's race. Every other species, which is only, physically 2 people in the entirety of Star Wars that have been of Yoda's species, have been Jedi Masters. So we assume that, the third one will have some Force abilities. He's entirely lifting up this Mudhorn, and it's one of the coolest scenes, period.
Right.
In all of Star Wars. Upon rewatching this, I actually took notice that the Mandalorian is at his end. Like, he's already beaten up by this beast. The beast hasn't taken a single blow as to this point. The Mandalorian's used, every trick in his book. All he has left is his little vibro blade that he's, like, holding out, and he's, like, weak. He's ready to give up. But that's his last resort, like, and the thing's charging at him. It wasn't until Baby Yoda stopped the Mudhorn that saved the Mandalorian's life. So it's a fascinating scene because, like, he was ready to give it all for that one little thing. He wasn't willing to give up. But because of the help of the little one, he was able to get through it.
Yeah, no, that was crazy. It was pretty cool seeing Jawas and seeing the Sandcrawler in a different perspective. It really does look humongous when you see it traversing down that canyon. It was really cool to see that. And something also, I don't know if you noticed, were that those Jawas had red eyes, whereas the ones on Tatooine had yellow eyes. And I was looking that up a little bit, and they call those off-world Jawas.
I actually didn't even notice that, so that's a good catch.
It's really cool that they have, like, different types.
Little attentions to detail, like, in every single episode that you don't think much of, but actually mean a lot more in the bigger picture of Star Wars. So the fans that are actually going to look this stuff up, like you or I, or some of the other, like, bigger Star Wars fans, they like that stuff. They love that stuff. They eat that stuff up. And what I noticed about watching the series again versus watching something like the sequel series is, in the sequel series, they'll have a lot of stuff that's like, oh, look at me. I'm a callback to something from this movie or this movie. But they don't really do callbacks in The Mandalorian. It's like, you know it or you don't. You know?
Yeah. They had, like, so many small details that they added from different aspects of the Star Wars universe. I mean, even from the holiday special, that rifle that he carries around was from that.
Yeah, or the
I was
blurgs.
like, dude, what? Yeah, the blurgs. Yeah, I think
from
that
the Ewok
came from
movies.
that. Oh yeah, the Ewok movies, which I haven't seen in, like, God knows how long. Which are those on Disney Plus?
I don't think
because
so.
I would watch that again because I remember seeing those a long time ago.
I don't think they're on Disney Plus. I don't even think the holiday special's on Disney Plus. I think, the Star Wars brand is trying to forget those as hard as it can.
So in episode 3, we head back to Navarro. The Mandalorian drops off Baby Yoda because Baby Yoda was a bounty assigned to him in the first episode. And so he gets his reward, and that's where he gets his full Beskar armor. When he first gets the bounty for Baby Yoda, he gets a little piece that it gives him that the armor makes a pauldron for him. So in this one, he gets pretty much a whole set of armor, or a set of Beskar armor, it looks so cool. When they finished up that armor and the cutscenes from, well, at this point you don't know just yet, but the cutscenes or the flashbacks that he has are from the Clone Wars, which is really cool.
It wasn't until the third episode that I realized that this show is basically just an RPG in Star Wars. where, you know, the first episode, you have the training montage of him, like, jumping onto one of those blurgs and, like, taking out this band of, you know, mercenaries, whatever. Second episode, he gains a new ally, and he's, like, part of your party. So you're, like, learning his new attacks. So, you know, Baby Yoda picks up the Mudhorn, and that's, like, his special move. And then the third episode, you know, he really, like, upgrades his armor, you know. It's all part of the RPG, like, formula. And then, you know, going on in the fourth episode, he gets another party member, Cara Dune, and so on and so forth. It's kind of funny, actually. Like, if you compare it to an RPG, it fits really well, and it's actually a pretty good RPG.
Right, when he goes to that compound to get Baby Yoda, that's essentially him running a dungeon, like in World of Warcraft.
Absolutely.
And he had to party up with IG-11.
So episode 3, it's called The Sin, and I'm pretty sure we can figure out that the sin is him actually giving this baby to the Imperials to do whatever the heck that they're doing on. And I think that's one of the mysteries that surrounds the series, is what the heck they want this kid for.
Right.
I think Deborah Chow does a fantastic job of, you know, just directing the entire episode, getting you to feel the humanity of this person with a mask on their face the entire episode, the entire series, really, until the very last episode. And she does such a great job of putting you into the world of the Mandalorians, the world of Navarro, this little town that they have situated, and learning more about the Imperial presence there. And then, like, trying to, like, turn the tables on what are the morals of the Mandalorian. You know, we know that he's a bounty hunter. We know that he's kind of cold-blooded up to this point. But he still has some principles that he's not willing to uphold. Because, as you mentioned, going back to that little, like, cutaway scene from the Clone Wars that they brought up, I think in episode 1 and episode 3, of his family, you know, being decimated by battle droids.
Right.
What are they? The super battle droids? I forget. I don't know.
Yeah, the one that's pointing down at him is a super battle droid.
Yeah, so his family is killed by super battle droids. That kind of, like, tells a little bit about his character. He doesn't trust droids in general. That's why, you know,
right.
He doesn't like IG-11 down the road or whatever.
We can't say that we have to thank, was it Warner? Was it Werner or
Werner Herzog.
Werner Herzog, for them using a puppet for Baby Yoda. I know that they were going to mostly do CG, I believe, that they said in the docuseries, but then Herzog told them to use a puppet, and it turned out fantastic. I think that it upped the adorable factor of Baby Yoda, and it's crazy because they went through, like, so many different rough drafts of Baby Yoda, and they, like, picked the perfect one.
Yeah, I agree with that. Werner Herzog, you know, notable filmmaker in his own right. The fact that he was able to, you know, tell them, like, no, you have to keep the puppet. It's perfect. You know, like,
yes.
Don't jump to, like, your vices and choose CGI. Now, they did use CGI. Quite a bit throughout the series. It was like maybe 75% puppet and then 25% CGI.
Right, and they were pretty smart about it, because they said that when they did CGI, that they didn't do anything that the puppet couldn't do.
Right.
So it didn't look unnatural. So
they don't have anything like Yoda flipping over 3 times over Count Dooku's head, something like that. Nothing like that. Which, honestly, you know, as a kid watching Attack of the Clones, that was the coolest possible thing I've ever seen up till that point. As an adult, I kind of realized, yeah, all right, that's a little bit silly. It's a little corny. Yoda was never supposed to be that guy. But it was a cool scene, and I remember it very fondly. But I understand where they're coming from with Baby Yoda. They don't want that to be, like, the thing that he's known for. They want him to be something that you can believe that the puppet would be able to do. I'd love to see a puppet down a whole frog, though.
Oh, my goodness, that was hilarious. Yeah, like, the Mando's like, spit it out. just downs the whole thing.
So what I was saying earlier, the Mandalorian, he kind of makes a twist as to what his morals really are. We understand that he's a cold-hearted person. He wants to get the job done. He's trying to do everything, not only for himself and his own interests, but for the clan that he exists within. With the Baby Yoda, with the child, he realizes he needs to think more about how this child is basically a foundling, like he was after that attack at the Clone Wars. And he needs to use that energy that he so viscerally remembers about his own childhood to help this, helpless child at the end of the day. Obviously, the child can help himself a little bit with the Force and stuff, but at the end of the day, he's a helpless child being used for whatever purposes the Empire has for him. And it's so interesting seeing the Mandalorian shift his role as a bounty hunter versus a role as a mentor figure and a protector for this child. And I think that's the perfect way to kind of absolve himself of the sin. What's funny is that he gets his cake and eats it too. He like gets the reward, and then he comes back and like gets the bounty that he started with anyway.
Right, yeah, he gets his Beskar armor and then he gets the bounty back.
Yeah, the guy really like wins on that front. And then of course we have like the excellent scene with the bounty hunters or the Mandalorians all like showing up at the end of the film or the end of the episode, like to save Din Djarin or whatever his name is. I think it's Din Djarin.
There hasn't been any real life action like that when it comes to the Mandalorian. You only see stuff like that in the Clone Wars.
You saw a little bit of it in like episode 2 when Obi-Wan's attacking Jango. Right.
So yeah, no, there's that. And the crazy thing is that, I mean, and this is like a whole other rabbit hole we can go down, is the fact that Jango wasn't technically a Mandalorian. And
yeah, we're not going to get into that. But
yeah, we're not going to get to that rabbit hole. I mean, as far as that, I don't know if it's going to change because the Mandalorian, he wasn't born on Mandalore, but he was still a Mandalorian. So it was more, so they made it into, so it's a creed. And something that some people pointed out in the Clone Wars were that the Mandalorians in Clone Wars, they took off their helmets and stuff. They showed themselves to other people. I didn't know that if this was going to be like a tribe of Mandalorians and that's the way they do things, or they change things up because a lot has happened since the Clone Wars. So
it's interesting, yeah, when you talk about that, because we did see Mandalore, we did see them take their helmets off in front of other people. Something happened between then and now, which is maybe a 25-year period that kind of tells us that for whatever reason they can't take their masks off anymore or their helmets off. They're definitely going to explore that down the line, because there's no way with Dave Filoni at the helm they were able to slip up that hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, there has to be an answer to that, or there has to be a workaround, because there is obviously like the Mandalore race. It is interesting that there is some difference between something that Dave Filoni made a decade ago with the Clone Wars, where you obviously see Mandalorian people taking their helmets off. In Rebels, you have characters like Sabine Wren, which is a main character who's a Mandalorian by descent, taking her helmet off in front of people. That's normal. And then all of a sudden, 25 years later, in a post-Empire Star Wars galaxy, you have the Mandalorian, the name of the show, who doesn't take his helmet off for anyone. Perhaps like the Foundlings, or the creed of the Foundlings, is something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I hope we get more of that, because that would be a glaring plot hole. If you're watching Star Wars as a whole, and then all of a sudden Mandalorians can't take their helmets off. It's an interesting concept, but we'll see how it fits basically later.
And so, all right, so we move forward a little bit in episode 4. So I would consider the first 3 episodes, it was like a 3-parter, because it was him picking up the bounty in the first episode, and then getting in the second episode, getting his ship situated and fixed. Third episode, bringing it back, bringing the bounty back. So in this 4th one, he's left Navarro. He has bounty hunters pretty much all over him now. They're tracking him down, or tracking the child down. And so they go to Sorgon, where we meet Cara Dune, which is, you know, a character that helps him later on in the series. And we meet those people that live in a village. And it was interesting because they were like indigenous, you know?
They definitely had Asian or Native American blood to them, like the actual actors that they chose. I don't want to speak for the actors themselves, but they definitely had that look where they could have been native to places like America prior to colonialism and stuff.
Right. You know, they're being attacked by oh my gosh. In that initial scene, it gave me Lord of the Rings vibes like crazy, because they look like orcs. They kind of look like orcs. They look like
orcs, but with dog faces. They look like bulldog faces.
Bulldog orcs.
Yeah, they look cool though. They're cool.
You know, the Mando comes in, or like, you know, he comes in and, you know, he's kind of trying to get situated, keeping his head down. You know, he was planning to be there for like months to pretty much be on the down low. You know, meets Cara Dune, finds out a little bit about her. You know, then he meets this village and finds out that they need help, and then so he recruits Cara Dune to pretty much take down these bandits, I guess it would be safe to call them. And it's really cool because, you know, seeing an ATST in that episode was really cool.
So the bandits are of a race, you know, the people wearing like dog stuff is Klatooinian or Klatooian raiders. There's different spellings, but
okay, so raiders. Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. What I find one of the most interesting things I find about episode 4, and I think Bryce Dallas Howard, was the potential for a love interest for the Mandalorian.
Yes.
We have this widow who's, you know, an attractive woman. She has a kid. She's ready to settle down, and she's actually like willing to like create a relationship with Mando. And she has some sort of a past for whatever reason. She knows how to fire a rifle. They never explain it, but it's interesting. Yeah. She's an interesting character. We do have that like period of like Mando considering. He definitely considers it, even though they never actually say it, that he's willing to stay on this in this village with this woman and potentially take his helmet off for this person and give up the creed that is the Mandalorian creed. It's an interesting idea, and it's something that they play around with. And if they don't bring that person, that actress back for another role or another visit for season 2 or beyond that point, I think it'd be a missed opportunity, because for the most part, that's the closest connection we've seen the Mandalorian ever get, and it's really interesting. I thought it was, you know, the most human or the most vulnerable that we've ever seen, aside from the fact that, you know, like in episode 8, he gets severely wounded and he needs to take his helmet off for the healing or whatever.
Right, and I think that they did such a great job at conveying that he was considering that without showing his face. Like, just the body language, the movement, that scene alone spoke volumes without there really being much dialogue. I mean, they were speaking, but there's a lot more being said than just what was being said.
I agree. There was a lot of, like, you know, body tension and even stillness to the acting that kind of showed some tentativeness on the behalf of, you know, the Mandalorian and the female. There was something between them. There was clearly a connection. You know, I don't know if it was a connection between the actors themselves, but on set there was some chemistry, and I liked that. It was honestly genuine. It was one of the most genuine things about the entire show for me, and I loved that episode for that. And I hope they bring those characters back, because I'd love to see a few more scenes of Baby Yoda playing with those kids again.
Yeah, that was pretty adorable. Yeah, that episode was really cool. And then episode 5 brings us to a familiar planet, we head to Tatooine. We even head to the same cantina that Obi-Wan and Luke go to in A New Hope. So that was a cool callback to that. And that something that they pointed out in the docuseries that I didn't think about is the fact that, remember, in The New Hope, they didn't serve any droids. But then by that time that the Mandalorian comes around, droids are running the bar, or they're running the cantina. There's an R4 that's rolling around in there. So things have definitely changed since that first movie.
It's funny because it's almost like, progressivism in the Star Wars universe. What does that mean for, you think of like our diversity and like the inclusion factor that we see pushed actively in pop culture nowadays. But what does that mean for Star Wars? And then we kind of have like these droids and everything showing up in a place where they previously weren't allowed in. Like, we don't serve your kind. And now they're actually actively serving drinks to people, and they're rolling around the bar. So it's kind of cool. And it's neat because they actively like remade the entire set to look like the original Mos Eisley Cantina. You got the feel of it, You have the character, what's his name? Toro Calican, I think that's his name. He's like sitting where Han Solo would have sat, next to Greedo or whatever. So it's stuff like that that really, brings this world to life. And this episode 5, is also directed by Dave Filoni, who directed episode 1. I think for what he was given, I think it was probably one of the best things that he could have done. Although I will say, in my personal opinion, this is the weak point for the entire season.
Yeah, so this episode definitely wasn't as grabby as the previous episodes, but I still enjoyed it. I think it was cool that they headed back to Tatooine. So I don't know if you knew this, but Ming-Na Wen was actually the original voice actress for Mulan in the animated version. So I think that's like pretty cool, considering that we were talking about Mulan earlier. There's definitely like a lot of crossovers, like Dave Filoni working on Avatar, and he's working on this, and so that's cool.
Yeah, I love that stuff. Man. Yeah, this is an interesting episode because I actually think you touched on it when we were talking about episode 4, but the first 3 episodes are kind of like serialized, where one follows the other, and then all of a sudden you have episode 4, which is kind of like in its own little time spot and its own little planet, but it's still kind of attached to the first 3 episodes because it's just after he decides to go on the run.
Right.
With this, it's a little bit after the fact. He goes to Tatooine to get his ship fixed up, but then he kind of goes off on a side adventure, and that's kind of where I'm like a little bit turned off by the episode. I didn't really like the character of Toro, or whatever his name was, and the idea that he was like a new bounty hunter. He was trying to get his card or whatever. If I was Mando, I wouldn't want anything to do with this guy. Personally, if he's attached to the guild and the guild is trying to kill me. So it didn't really make much sense to me. That said, though, I think this episode is going to highly influence what happens in season 2.
Yes, I believe so too. And I kind of understand why Mando got involved. He was hard pressed for credits, and so there wasn't really anything available for him to make credits so that he could pay for the repairs on his ship. So he was kind of forced into working with this guy because this guy was essentially flashing credits in front of him, like, hey, if you help me out with this, I got you.
You're right.
So yeah, no, that I can understand why he ended up getting involved, because his back was kind of against the wall. Originally, in that first exchange, he didn't want anything to do with it,
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I actually appreciated it more this time around, rewatching it, as opposed to the first time around. I was really excited to see Ming-Na Wen in a Star Wars project like this, as the bounty hunter or the assassin Fennec Shand. I think that's a cool character for her. And I just wish I had seen more of her instead of this other guy, Toro or whatever his name is. I think we're going to get both of those characters, and maybe not both of those characters because I don't know about Toro, but Ming-Na Wen and whoever the bounty hunter was that, picked her up at the end of that. Do you have any, obviously we all kind of have one particular theory as to who that other bounty hunter was that picked up Fennec Shand at the end of that episode, but what are your thoughts on that?
Right, so I know that a lot of people are saying that it's Boba Fett, and so, I want to believe that, but, I'm just not completely sold on it. I could be wrong, but I'm not completely sold on that idea. Has Boba Fett been confirmed, or is it, hearsay? Because I know that Ahsoka has been all but confirmed.
Okay, so I don't want to spoil it for anyone. So
we're talking spoilers anyways.
All right. So we're going to talk spoilers. All right. So Ahsoka has all but been confirmed everywhere except official sources has claimed that Ahsoka Tano is signed on to play in Mandalorian season 2, and I'm all for it. The actor who played Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones, Temuera Morrison, is supposedly back to play the Mandalorian in season 2. Not necessarily the Mandalorian. He's playing a Mandalorian. I'm assuming he's going to play Boba Fett. Obviously, this hasn't been confirmed. I don't want to get your hopes up if that's the case. If you're gonna hire the guy who played Jango Fett,
right? We're
looking at Boba Fett here.
And in theory, you're supposed to imagine his face under Boba's helmet in Return of the Jedi and Empire.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think he was also kind of not fully confirmed.
Yeah, exactly. Right? It wasn't like I said, it wasn't fully confirmed. It's not official sources revealing this. These are different. I think I just read a Hollywood article or Hollywood Reporter article. So they're usually right. THR is usually right. But this isn't 100% confirmed. As far as Ahsoka goes, I'm excited to see Rosario Dawson play, an older version of Ahsoka. Rosario Dawson is not only beautiful, but she's a fantastic actress. She did so good in the Netflix stuff, Luke Cage and Daredevil and all that. I love her ability to play, characters in that geek universe. She's so good at it. And, I'm a little upset that Ashley Eckstein didn't get, called back to play Ahsoka Tano. But in terms of actually looking like the character, Rosario Dawson looks like the character.
Right, yeah. I could definitely picture her as more mature version of Ahsoka. And another character that has also not really been fully confirmed is Sabine. I'm hearing Sabine also.
Look, don't get my hopes up, all right? Don't get my hopes up. Let's. All right.
They're saying that Sasha Banks could potentially be Sabine.
Maybe. We saw her in the trailer. I don't know if you like.
Right. Right. She was hooded.
She was hooded in the trailer. I don't know why she wouldn't have her Mandalorian helmet on. I don't know if she's hiding it. Who knows? I could see Sasha Banks playing Sabine. She kind of has that look. But we'll see, we'll see. I love Rebels so much. I love the cast of Rebels so much. I want to see a sequel series to Rebels because they left that so open-ended it hurts. I wanna see what happens to Ezra and Thrawn and Sabine and Ahsoka, obviously. So I'm gonna stop talking about that here. So let's go on. We got 3 more episodes to talk about. How about Rick Famuyiwa? Why can't I say this guy's last name? We got Rick Famuyiwa's The Prisoner, episode 6. That's another low point for me in terms of what I get from the series. I think that's the most out there in terms of story and plot in terms of the entire arc of the season. It's a cool episode. I love the heist aspect of it. I think there are certain parts that kind of stretch believability Like the scene where one of the characters is, like hiding from the darkness, or he's like trying to like get to safety, and like in the background you see like lights flickering, and like the Mandalorian like getting closer and closer, but like disappearing whenever it's like light. How is he doing that? Like, how is he physically doing that? And then he turns around, and he's just like, now I'm behind you. It's like a horror movie. Like,
oh yeah,
suddenly this guy has
uh,
supernatural powers.
No, I remember when I like last saw that, I was like, man, this is like very horror movie. For me, I like this episode maybe a bit more than episode 5.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Because because it showed how resourceful the Mandalorian can be.
He is,
especially when he was locked in that cell, dude. Like, I mean, that was like pretty crazy. Like how he got out of that cell.
He wasn't in there for 5 minutes. He was in there for like 30 seconds, and he's just like, all right, I'm already out.
I think it was pretty cool to see how resourceful and how skilled he is. The rest of the group, when he was fighting the droids, they're just like kind of watching. I think that it was a split between them hoping that he would die and being in awe of how, like, oh my gosh, this guy is like whipping all these droids by himself. Like, I mean, he was really, really cool. And another thing that I bring up that I liked about the Mandalorian is that although it might seem like he's overpowered, he does take his like hits, man. He does like kind of get beat up on.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He will get shot, you know.
I think I'm a little too harsh on this episode. I think a little bit of when I first watched the series, it was a little bit of fatigue because you started with a show that's serialized, and then you started getting into, episode 4, he's on this planet with this girl on this village, and then episode 5, he's like doing this side quest with this guy who doesn't know bounties, again, RPG related, and then episode 6, he's again doing a side quest for a guy that doesn't seem like a very, like, he seems a little sketchy, I don't know, from the get-go, he's just like, shady. You're only here because of your ship. I'm like, are you trying to kill me? Stuff like that. And I think by episode 6, I was a little exhausted with the side quests. But, rewatching it again, like I was saying with episode 5, I got to respect the series a little bit more. I got to respect the characters a little bit more. And like you said about him doing his thing and showing how skilled he is at, insurgents operations and, taking over this prison vessel and, just psychologically torturing these four dudes.
Right.
It's interesting. He's such an interesting character.
And I think that it also really, it showed his character too. Because remember there was that guy that was on the bridge, I think, or the prison control center or whatever, and everybody in that group wanted to kill him except for him.
He's the only one who showed restraint. He had a code that he showed restraint.
Exactly. So it really showed that, I mean, yeah, he can be cold at times, but he has principles. He has like a heart. He's not killing unless he has to. I don't know if you've noticed that, but in this show, I mean, maybe against the Jawas, he could have probably held restraint, but he was just like really mad because they were stripping his stuff. So in a way, he had a reason for doing what he did. He didn't really kill unless he had to, He's always been a very like lawful, neutral character.
So he wants to do, right by his code and by everything that he believes in. But he's also neutral to whatever, political tensions or group tensions exist at the time. He's always doing his own little thing by his own code. But everyone else in that crew was either chaotic neutral or chaotic evil, to the point where they just wanted to, like, get in, get out, get the prisoner that they were trying to get, and kill whoever was in their way. And he's just like, no, that's not necessary. This wasn't what we planned. It's an interesting comparison, and I think it's useful. It's useful for people who don't get the nuances from previous episodes, that this is a good character with a good heart who's doing
Right.
things that, might just be just outside of their own moral compass. So he's doing these bounties not because he likes inflicting pain on bad people. He's doing it because he wants to help his own people. He's trying to help his own clan receive funds for whatever they need funds for. I don't know what they need funds for. But
Right, it's not just for him.
exactly. He's not just doing it for him. He's not just doing it because he's evil. He's doing it because he has a code that he's trying to live by. And this is the only job that he can do.
Dude, he even gives his bounties the option of, come in. You either come with me alive or you come with me dead. He has this like catchphrase that he says.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
And then oh yeah, and so in this episode, there's that one alien. I looked it up, but I don't remember. But he looks kind of like Deborah from Dragon Ball Z minus the goatee.
He's Deveronian.
Deveronian, that's right.
They were originally introduced in A New Hope, and he was one of the Deveronian race is like the devil-looking race that was introduced in A New Hope in the Mos Eisley Cantina. This particular Deveronian is called Berg, B-E-R-G. Right. He's interesting. He's kind of just like the muscles for the job. He's kind of a meathead, but. He's fun to watch on screen. It's also fun to watch him get beat.
Yeah, for real. That was actually a really cool fight between him and Mando.
Yeah.
Like, Mando essentially had to outsmart him because he couldn't outmuscle him.
Yeah, and that, it's a classic Batman fight, right? You have like Bane versus Batman. The only way Batman's going to win is with his technology, with his smarts, with his, with his tech. So you have a character like Mandalorian who has to outsmart the big muscly guy who's clearly bigger and stronger than you. So it's an interesting parallel. Rick Famuyiwa, I can't say your name. I'm sorry, I keep mispronouncing your name. I think you did a pretty good job for episode 6. Now, you guys can't see this on your end, but I'm a few whiskey drinks in at this point. Famuyiwa. I'm really not trying to like dismember your name. I think
no.
You did a fantastic job on this episode. You did a fantastic job on the second episode too. All right, let's continue. The Reckoning, episode 7, Deborah Chow. Deborah Chow's back, and she nails this episode because we're getting back to...
Wait. We did not point out at the end of episode 6, the X-Wing fighters, that the pilots were the directors. One was Dave Filoni, one was Rick Famuyiwa, and the other one was Deborah Chow.
You're right.
So the directors were in there.
Yes. That was a fantastic little cameo for the 3 directors. And if you watch the docuseries, you'll know that Jon Favreau, the producer of the series, actually asked them to, play it down, play it like you're bored. Like, this is like something you do on a regular basis. This isn't just like, you're not in a war setting. You're just in you're doing your job sort of setting. And that makes the scene so much better because it's just like, yeah, these people looks like they're engaging in combat. Looks like they're starting up. They're setting out a gunship for us. Let's take it out. And dude, it's a fantastic little scene. And honestly, it's a great way to end the episode because it brings to mind the fact that yes, the New Republic is the new, not big bad in the universe, but like. They're the new political power in the universe, Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing kind of remains to be seen. We haven't really seen much of the New Republic in either the sequel trilogy or in this series, whatever. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops, post Imperial rule. Obviously, it has to be a little bit better than the Empire. No more slavery. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, definitely.
Kashyyyk is going crazy right now. I mean, they must be jumping out of their furs.
Swinging from trees.
I love Kashyyyk, dude.
Yeah.
Deborah Chow, The Reckoning.
Yes. This was a good episode also.
Yeah, I think the Reckoning and also Taika Waititi's The Redemption in episode 8, we can talk about together because they kind of flow together. So
yeah, it's a two-parter. It's pretty much a two-parter.
With Deborah Chow's The Reckoning, we have Mando coming back to Navarro. We have Grief Karga telling him that they have a new bounty, that, you know, the Imperial presence on Navarro, this little town in Navarro, is increasing exponentially, and they need their help to get rid of the guy played by Werner Herzog. And
right.
We get...
Well, and then we also forgot to say that before then he picks up Cara Dune, and we actually didn't mention him earlier, but in the first 2 episodes, he's helped by an Ugnaught named Quill, that you don't find out his name until these episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so he goes back, he picks him up, he recruits them for this mission, and along with that, we get IG-11 also. Again, a redone up IG-11. Quill reprograms IG-11 to pretty much nurse,
which is a fantastic. It's so funny. The fact, all the nursing puns, all the Taika Waititi jokes that came out of that, pure gold, pure, you know, TV gold. All right, let's go back to the episode. He's on Navarro. He's, you know, speaking with Grief Karga, the guy who in episode 3 was trying to shoot him down because he went and reneged on the bounty hunter guild and, you know, took the child after he had already taken the reward. So it was just a big mess. So he's back on Navarro. He's got Cara Dune with him. He's got Grief Karga with him. And he's got baby Yoda, the child, with him. And they're trying to not necessarily make a new deal, because he doesn't have any plans to get rid of the child, but he wants to, you know, get the bounty hunters off his back, and he's trying to get the Imperials off his back at the same time, so he's willing to work with the guild. Little does he know, Grief Karga was planning all along to turn on Mando and take baby Yoda and then give it to Werner Herzog's character. I feel like we should just call Werner Herzog's character the real name of the character, but it's so much more fun to say Werner Herzog than whatever the character's name was. So we're going to keep doing that. One of my favorite parts of the entire show, I mentioned it earlier, is when Carl Weathers gets attacked by that thing, and like, you know, there's a little battle after they have that little...
yeah, like they get attacked by these like flying creatures.
Yeah. They're not Minox, but they kind of look like Minox from Empire. But they attack him. He obviously gets severely wounded. He's very badly damaged, and they're trying to fix up whatever wounds he has. And, you know, the child comes over, baby Yoda. He goes like this, and Quill goes, "Oh, just let him in. Let him do his thing," whatever. I don't know what he says. And
yeah, he puts his hand, baby Yoda puts his hand on the wound.
Yeah, and then Grief Karga goes, "He's trying to eat me."
I know. I feel like that was a Carl Weathers joke. I feel like that's something that he probably came up with.
Probably. What's funny is, I don't know if you ever watched Arrested Development. He's in Arrested Development in a few episodes where he's kind of guiding Tobias Funke to be a better actor. And for whatever reason, they're on a patio balcony for a short scene, and he throws a bone into the trash, and Carl Weathers goes,
Whoa. There's still plenty of meat on that bone. Now you take this home, throw it in a pot, add some broth, a potato. Baby, you got a stew going.
And like me and Jen, my wife, were just laughing at, you know, Baby Yoda putting his hand on Carl Weathers' arm, and, you know, Baby Yoda's like trying to make a stew out of you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I love that scene so much. Unfortunately, not everyone makes it out alive in episode 7.
Oh man, yeah. That actually, it hurt. So in this episode, Quill gets killed. And we actually forgot to mention that he's voiced by Nick Nolte.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great actor.
And in an alien way, he kind of looks like Nick Nolte.
Yeah, I kind of see it.
And so
it
I
fits
think
his
they
voice.
did that really well. Yes, it really fits the voice well. So yeah, he gets killed by the scout troopers that chase him down because he has Baby Yoda with him. It was really sad to see his character die because I actually really liked his character a lot.
It's interesting, like the power struggle that we see once the Mandalorian, Cara Dune, and Greef Karga get back to the town in Navarro, the base camp where the Imperials are all waiting for them, and you almost see like a desperation in Werner Herzog's eyes, about like, he's already lost the package once, and then all of a sudden you could see that he's like desperate to get the package again, like, let me see the baby, don't worry, we'll be quiet, stuff like that. And it's interesting, just that little, there's a change to his character, Werner Herzog's character, where you could tell like he's like, if I don't get the baby, I'm gonna die, like he's very desperate, but he's not like playing it as a desperate person. Obviously we know that Werner Herzog dies shortly thereafter. Moff Gideon shows up shortly thereafter to be the big bad of the entire first season of the show, and I think he plays that role really well.
Giancarlo Esposito, I think that he did a fantastic job in portraying Moff Gideon. He does a really good job in just playing these menacing characters.
Yeah, he brings a sort of like grandiosity to the screen that like everyone in the room or the set or whatever, wherever they were filming, like just kind of like steps back from this guy, like
right
he plays the boss. He plays the boss of the scene, and he does it so well. Yeah, so I love that. And that kind of leads us to the end of episode 7, where the child is grabbed by several stormtroopers, or scout troopers rather, and they kill Nick Nolte's character, Queel. Unfortunately, he dies a free elf. Or a free Ugnaught. He's paid for his debts.
Right. And then we actually find out that one of those scout troopers are Jason Sudeikis.
Wait, that's Jason Sudeikis?
Yes, one of them is. Yep.
I didn't know that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, one of the scout troopers was Jason Sudeikis.
That's crazy. All right, I didn't know that. All right, so let's jump into the final episode of
namely the
Mandalorian.
One that punched Baby Yoda.
What?
He was the one that punched Baby Yoda.
The jerk. They both got what's coming to them. IG-11, first of all, comes with a vengeance. Like, just destroys those two scout troopers. First of all, that scene is hilarious for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
I think the best joke in the entirety of all The Mandalorian is Taika Waititi directing these two stormtroopers to shoot a can, a couple yards away, and they're both missing. They're both shooting aimlessly at the ground. That is the best joke in any Star Wars property ever. It's so good, and it's so like self-referential, but it's not it's not on the nose. It's not on the nose. Like, it's not about like, oh, we always miss, blah blah blah. It's just they're both trying, and it feels genuine, and that's why it's so funny. And I
think it was cool seeing troopers in a casual setting. Like, they were kind of, they were in their armor, but they were standing by and they're just kind of like relaxing while they're doing it, and we never see anything like that, at least in live action.
That's a good point. We do get a few scenes here and there in like the sequel series that kind of play around with the idea of like stormtroopers talking to each other about like the latest model of like the gun that they're using, or the scene where Kylo Ren is like freaking out and like we have stormtroopers walking up to them like and then turning the other direction. You have stuff like that, but this is the only time that we've actually like seen like a whole scene where stormtroopers are just shooting the crap and just talking about like, well, we can't go back because the last person just like died because they interrupted Moff Gideon. It's so funny.
Oh yeah,
it's so stupid. I love it.
This was the episode that we get to see the Mandalorian's face for the first time.
Finally.
He gets injured, right? Yeah, he gets injured in the midst of an insane firefight.
Yeah.
That was a really crazy firefight. And
Literally a firefight. We had, an incinerator stormtrooper, whatever they're called,
right.
Shooting fire, and then, Baby Yoda does his thing and does the magic hands and, turns the fire against the trooper.
Yeah, that was cool.
There's a lot of cool stuff in this episode. Obviously, if you've watched the episode, you've got to this part. We're just going to talk about the cool stuff at this point. So we have, IG-11 sacrificing himself at the end of the day. That was one of the coolest parts. That
was cool, and it was important. It was actually an important turning point for the Mando because he showed concern and he didn't want IG to go.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, up until this point, he didn't care about droids. He didn't want anything to do with droids, and this one changed his mind about it, and so did Quill. Because Quill also said that droids aren't bad. They're just pretty much up to the programming. It's down to the programming pretty much. Yeah, that scene was actually pretty big because, Mando didn't want him to go. He didn't want him to blow up.
It was interesting watching the docuseries because Rick Famuyiwa, he actually discusses, he's talking about both Quill and IG-11, and then he turns to Jon Favreau and he goes, and you killed both of them. You killed both of them. And, as a joke. But then Jon Favreau says, well, it's necessary. You have to do that. Because if you don't do that, nothing matters. And it's true. When you have to kill certain characters off in an action story for there to be consequences, for it to feel real,
right.
For it to feel like there's actually some consequence to what's happening. And it kind of all came together for me. Both Quill and IG-11 were introduced not just as sacrifices for the character, but sacrifices for the Mandalorian to grow as a character.
Right.
And also, to help raise the child a little bit and see that happening over the course of 8 episodes. And I think they did a fantastic job.
Yeah, IG had some pretty awesome moments. That first episode, it made me laugh when he thought that they were going to get captured. And he's like, all right. He's like, time to initiate self-destruct or self-destructing. And then Mando's like, no, what are you doing? Stop. We can do this. And he does this a couple of times. And that was so funny. IG was a great character. I think that it was really cool to bring in an assassin droid and kind of flesh them out and show why they're one of the deadliest bounty hunters out there.
Yeah, I also really liked the armor being reintroduced in this episode as the last of the Mandalorians in this little base in Navarro. We don't know what happened to the rest of them. We assume that most of them, if not all of them, were killed. But it's cool that she still had the presence of mind to keep up with the Mandalorian creed. She made this nice little emblem or family house crest for not only the Mandalorian, but she even says it's a family of 2 or the clan of 2.
Right, a clan of 2, right.
And
they called it a clan of 2, and his insignia was the Mudhorn.
It's so cool.
Which was really cool.
It's so cool. I wish Baby Yoda had a little bit of a Mudhorn necklace or something. But it's cool that he gets the Mando.
That would have been sick. Yeah.
He gets the Mandalorian necklace, which is still very cool.
Right, the Mythosaur.
Yeah. Lots of really cool things in this episode. Obviously, we didn't even talk about the Darksaber showing up.
Right, which is really cool. That's something that pops up in the Clone Wars. That popped up in this. That was really cool. It's in this episode when she's making the crest for him that we get to see a bigger picture of his flashback. And that he actually gets saved by... was Death Watch? Death Watch militia? He gets saved by the Death Watch. From Clone Wars.
Oh, I didn't even catch that. Wow, I didn't even catch that. That's really cool. I just saw Mandalorian armor and I was just like, oh, cool, more Mandalorians. But yeah, that was Death Watch, wasn't that?
Right, yeah. The time and place, it
fits.
Sense.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, we also forgot, was it the armorer gives him his jetpack, which remember in episode 3, when when one of the Mandalorians is flying away, he's like, man, I want one of those.
Yeah, so little callbacks to that.
Yeah, so that was really cool. And the armor actually has a really cool scene where she's beating up a bunch of
stormtroopers.
She's beating up a bunch of stormtroopers with pretty much just a hammer and like a clamp. Yeah. So that goes to show that Mandalorians, they are a tough group of people.
Our recording for this podcast is currently about to hit the 2-hour mark right now, so this is going to be a long episode for you guys. It's probably going to be like an hour and a half. So I think we're going to cut it short here. We can obviously keep talking about The Mandalorian. Really quickly, what are you looking forward to with Mandalorian Season 2, Anthony?
Well, definitely I'm excited to see more Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, and also some of these other characters that are rumored to be in there, such as Ahsoka. I mean, Ahsoka is one of my favorite characters from Clone Wars. It will be cool to see her. I'm just hoping that it's not in a way to where she steals the show. I hope it's more than a cameo, but not enough to take over the show, if you know what I mean.
I totally agree. I'm looking forward to seeing how they shift from the Bounty Hunter Guild chasing Mandalorian to the Empire, because now it's actively the Empire chasing the child. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So
it'll be interesting seeing that shift. But yeah, I'm also looking forward to seeing Rosario Dawson playing Ahsoka, if that's true. If that's not true, my heart's gonna be broken. But yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited. The season 2 looks fantastic. Lots of good trailers lately. We didn't even talk about Dune released its first trailer. We got the first trailer full trailer for WandaVision, stuff like
today.
That. Yeah, today, like right before we started recording this. So lots of cool stuff going on. Wow. So if you've made it this far and you don't message us on Twitter or Instagram, which you can find in our show notes, I don't know what's wrong with you. I mean, we want to continue this conversation. What did you think of The Mandalorian? We need to know your thoughts right this very moment, actually. You know, within the next 5 minutes of you listening to this podcast, we'll know that you didn't message us. So please do.
But yeah, definitely check us out on Twitter. We're at PGeekology. We're also on Instagram, Project Geekology. And so definitely follow us there, and definitely post updates when we're recording and when we release. Also, if you're listening on a platform that allows you to review, definitely give us a review. Make it a great one. And next episode, we're going to be talking about Overwatch. We're going to be talking a little bit about the background and obviously the characters and our favorite characters. And so stay tuned for that next week.
Yeah, absolutely. We're super excited to talk about Overwatch. It's been one of my favorite video games, and you know, superhero worlds that has like come about in the past 5 years. So definitely stay tuned for that. Even if you aren't a fan of Overwatch, it'll be an interesting show. We'll make sure that you learn all about that IP, that project that Blizzard has been diving into for the past couple years. Thank you so much for listening. Leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yes, definitely. Have a great rest of your week, and we will catch you next episode.
Thanks. Have a good one.